1, 2, 3. Part 3. Sorry for the wait, I guess I could say. As you guys know, I was on vacation and then I got back and then I've just kind of been readjusting back to the time zone and I've just been busy. So I would say thanks for waiting patiently, but I think I can't. Every day I've been getting comments asking, when's the next Tristan video coming? When are you going to do part 3 of the Tristan video? When are you going to finish the Tristan? When is the Tristan finished yet? It's almost as if you guys like forgot that I have a life outside of Gunpla and YouTube. I mean, I don't really have much of a life outside of Gunpla and YouTube, but I mean, it does take up a lot of time, family, work, normal responsibilities of an adult man. I mean, you guys know I don't have any sort of social life at all, but I mean, still, I got responsibilities. So, anyway, finally, here it is, part 3. I'm back to work on this, and the future parts will be coming in more rapid succession. Not one right after another, but I will have them coming probably at least once a week until this is done. Hopefully more than that. I do want to focus on getting this done relatively soon. So, back to work on the torso, shall we? So if you'll remember from part 2, we basically taking the Tristan torso and gonna throw that out after I wasted time modifying that. Let's put our leg over there. And what I was gonna do is take this midsection of the gym and make this fit into here. Now this doesn't really fit, it's a bit wide, so what I need to do is make this torso a little bit deeper like that. Basically I'm just gonna add some plot plate in to just make that a little bit deeper in the torso, but there's a couple things I need to do first. First off, this doesn't really fit in there because of this little nub at the front. I don't think I'm gonna need to have to cut any of this except for this little nubby there on the front, so just gonna quickly lop that off. There we go. That's much better. Now this can fit here. Let me see this little part here sticking back at the bottom of that rib part there. Just gonna cut that off as well. Just quickly file that smooth. There you go, that's better. And I'm just testing because once this is a little bit larger, I need to make sure that this is gonna go up in there without stuff getting in the way. Ah yes, speaking of stuff getting in the way, we need to cut out some more stuff. So since I'm not really gonna need any of these connections inside here, I'm just gonna cut all these out. Okay, so that's well and cleaned out. Now I'm just going to add some plot plate into that area, but then here I need to figure out how this is actually going to fit up into there once this is connected. So basically this will be one piece, and then, you know, ultimately this needs to be able to fit up into there and stay there. Now I could just kind of just glue this all together as make this one piece, but then I need to mask that for painting and just to make things a little bit easier. This already has this hole here, so I'm going to utilize that because it basically fits directly right up into that section there that we already have. And this part is going to be covered up. Well, it's going to be mostly covered up, but I'm going to do something to fix that as well. Because this is normally like that, but because we're adding 2mm to it, that's actually going to expose 2mm of that forward like that. So I think drilling down into this will make a mark there, but I'm going to cover that up later. So we'll get back to that. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is just make a peg. Just make a peg here, just going through this, and so that this will just be able to just plug just straight up into that, and should be no problem. So the first thing we need to do is just measure the size of that. So I can take a guess, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be 3mm. So I've got my caliper here, and so there we go. Inside of that hole is, yep, 3mm exactly. That's a very common measurement that Bandai uses for a lot of their pegs on their kits, especially in the more recent years. If you got a HG kit with like in the last couple years, it's a very common peg size they use. So not for everything, of course, but luckily for us, it is in this case. Now I have a couple options because I actually do have some brass wire that is exactly 3mm, so I could use this and that would work very easily. But just to be resourceful, because I happen to have this on hand for the Baldwin arms parts, I believe this part of the runner is probably also 3mm, and indeed it is, so I can just cut a small little section of this runner and use that. So just gonna give this a little snip and a little snip snip. I'm gonna cut more. I'm sure that's much more than I'm gonna end up actually needing, but that's okay. The unfortunate part here is that the largest drill bit that I have is unfortunately just 2.5 millimeters, so I'll have to drill with this and then I'll have to make the hole a little bit bigger. But what I want to do is check where that's going to be. So with this all the way to the front there, I'm actually just kind of guessing about where that hole is going to be. Something like that I think should be about right. So again, you could and probably should get really scientific and actually measure out to make sure that's exactly centered, but it's such a small thing, I'm pretty sure that's pretty close to being centered. So just gonna go ahead and drill away. So I actually had an idea. I have this drill bit set. This is actually for like wood, like a power drill. And the unfortunate part is that this is not in millimeters, but in inches. I think this will work well enough for this. So it's actually not, I tested it and it's actually not exactly 3 millimeters. This is just under 3 millimeters. And again, it's not really meant for plastic, but it should work fine, well enough for this. It's gonna work well enough because actually sanding this peg a little bit and it's really tight in there. It's actually almost breaking that apart a little bit. So it's gonna make this peg a little bit smaller. Moments later, after some sanding, that peg is ready and it will fruit through there like so, and then onto there like so, and then that will eventually be on there. And now, just to get rid of this little bit of peg sticking out the top, peg is sticking out the top, sticking out the top, peg is sticking out the top. Just gonna make a mark there, pop that out, and then slice it where that mark was. A little bit of glue in here, set in our peg, push that all the way down there, a little bit more glue. I like being real generous, so I'm gonna put a little bit of glue in the inside as well, just to make sure that's nice and solid. And now we wait. In the meantime, we can go ahead and set our plot plate on the back half of the piece. I'm just gonna stack up, I think 2 millimeters for this. So again, I've just got the same piece here. Just need 2 stacks of this. So I'm just gonna cut some pieces that will fit on this section here. So on this side, 1, 2, and then on this side, 1, 2. Lay those on here, let that to dry, and then we need to cut out a little bit for the joints and the shoulders, and then we can set the front on there. So this section here looks about right. Again, just to make sure our glue will have plenty to stick to, just going to give this some light sanding on the surface here. Okie dokie, so that is in place, and I'll put that to the side to dry as well. Now the next thing I want to do is do a little bit of work on this while we're waiting as well, and I'm basically going to be doing pretty much the same thing I've been doing for everything else for this kit, just adding plot plate, adding a stack of plot plate. That's what I'm going to call this, the Tristan stacked. So basically I just want to make this red part that goes on the front of the chest a little bit bigger, a little bit more exaggerated, I guess we could say. So I'm just going to stack a piece of, I think just one, I'm not going to go too crazy with this. I'm just going to stack just one piece of plot plate here on the top of that, just to add that, just to give this a little bit more height. So again, like everything else, just glue a piece on there, and then once the glue is dry, just trim it down, sand it down, so it's flush and looks right. And that'll be pretty much all we need to do for this. This is a really simple thing. So sand that, make sure it's flat. As you can see, just some sanding reveals that it's not perfectly flat. We do have some sink marks in there from the molding process. Doesn't really matter too much, but just give us a nice sanded surface. Give this one a little bit of sanding as well. Just gonna need a small little snib. Glue on side A, glue on side B, and connect. Always make sure you screw that back on before you put it aside. You don't want to knock that accidentally and knock off some glue. onto your cell phone. I'm talking from experience. And that's another one we just now need to just set aside. Give that some good glue, some time to dry. So while we're waiting for that stuff to dry, I think we'll probably have to finish up those major modifications for the chest in the next episode, because I need to give that glue plenty of time to cure, because those are some pretty important connections there. Don't want to risk that. Let us move on to the waist for now. We'll just start on some of the major modifications to the waist skirt area section here. I was hoping to just like finish all the torso modifications with this, but before we get to the finer modifications for that, I need to finish the major modifications. So we'll just start working here on the skirt a little bit in the meantime to finish up this episode. And basically what I'm going to do is figure out how to take the parts from this and put them onto here. So taking this apart, we'll just focus on just this front and back part here, which should be the easiest. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll just take off the side skirts and won't worry about those for the time being. What I think I'm going to be able to do is basically just cut out the inside of this and then trim this part down a little bit. And I think this part should just fit right over the top of this, and that should work really simply. And you can see what we can do is keep the Tristan front skirts in place just using this existing part here. It's a little loose now as it is, but that's okay. Even if it's loose on the final kit, it really doesn't matter too much. But and then if I can just fit this piece just straight over that, that would be super simple and nice. So that's what we're going to try to do here. So the first thing is this part here. I just want to get rid of this kind of detail around the side of that. So just gonna bring out the file and just kind of file that down. There we go. That's now more streamlined, and as you can see, the width of that should fit in here just nicely. You can see at the bottom there it fits into there very nicely. Now we just need to get rid of this stuff on the inside of here that's in the way. So we'll just give that a clip, and down here at the bottom too, a little snip snip. Okay, so as I'm continuing to work on this, I'm noticing my tried and true modifying technique of just try something that I think will work and then deal with the how to actually make it work later is working very nicely. So we'll take off this part for now. And these little bits here on the side are kind of meant to hold the side skirts in on the Tristan, but we don't really particularly need those. Just a matter of if I want to keep those for the design aspect of this, and I don't really think I want to. Plus I think they're gonna kind of be a little bit in the way. So we're just gonna lose those here as well. And just kind of clean that up a bit. Doesn't have to be perfect for now, because I'm sure I'll probably have to change something a bit later as well. But anyway, we can kind of get an idea of how that's going to fit onto there. See, I know already I need to cut more of this for that to fit on there properly. Like that. As you can see, it doesn't really want to go in there all the way because it's getting stopped here. This section I need to cut out a little bit of this here, but the problem that behind that, this is the part that's holding in that little blue part on the front. Now this little blue part here can very easily just be kind of just glued in to nothing later. It doesn't really matter much. So I think what I'm going to do is a combination of things. I'm going to cut a little bit of this, I'm going to cut a little bit of this, and so that's going to fit as close as I can, and then I'm still going to have like this little corner of this that's kind of like there. It's not really going to be too visible because actually where this is actually a pretty good spot for how far forward I want that to be actually. But there's still going to be a little bit of a gap there. I'm just going to fill that with some putty. So let's just do a little bit more cutting on this first. Now that is going to be where it is about here. That I want to cut out a little bit more of that. Alright, and after some more cutting, remember, it's not about what it looks like on the inside, but what it looks like on the outside that counts. And that fits just about close enough there, so there's still a little bit of a gap, but I'm going to go ahead and glue that like that, and then add in some putty to kind of fill in that recessed area that shouldn't be so recessed. But let's take a look at the back skirt, shall we? So I'm pretty much going to do about the exact same thing. Considering that this whole back skirt is all just one piece, I basically just need to kind of cut that away, so this back skirt is gonna pretty much just be trashed. Got the inside of this, and then just slide that over that, and that's pretty much it. So I gotta tell you guys, this part, just cutting just plastic completely haphazardly, is one of the most fun parts of the whole process. So while I'm at it, one issue you'll notice that I'm going to have here is that I was hoping that this will just fit into this rectangular space here in the center, but it's not completely rectangular, as we have this part here at the top. It's actually plugged onto the center part via these two pegs there to the side. So I'm basically just going to cut all around the outside of that, and then I'll just have to cut some extra space out of here to make some space for those to fit, so that this piece will fit over the top of this. Okie dokie, so again, after some more cutting, that is gonna fit onto there. There's our back skirt, and then the front skirt will fit onto here, and you'll notice there's a little bit of a difference in the bottom of that between the front and the back. There is about a 2mm difference there, so I'm gonna stack some plot plate on the bottom of that. You guys have been watching me stack plot plate for like for a while, so you don't need to see me do that. I'll do that off camera, but that's basically how these are gonna fit onto here. I'll glue those, but then let's go and talk about the side skirt. Now the side skirt of the Jim is just too small, and the side skirt of the Tristan is also too small. I just hate the look of the side skirt, it just looks so stupid. So I'm gonna get rid of that. I'm gonna give it something a little bit more beefy and use these parts. These are actually leftover parts from the Surfumida, the Axis Angel version, I believe that was. So these are just like meant for the arm. But I'm going to make this be the side skirts for this, so they're gonna be a little bit much more substantial. So the first thing actually is I need to make this flat, so I need to file that. And I'm going to cut off the edges of this. Okay, so that's flat. That's flat. Now I can just simply glue these together like so, and then just do a little bit of fixing that, and that will be all good. Okay, well, actually I'm gonna scratch that idea, because I'm putting this together and like that's kind of lining up, but it's not really looking great. I'm not really too into it too much, so I decided to take out my drill again and just drill the hole. Now the connection point is like to the back for this. It's kind of weird instead of being in the center. So I could have just used that hole that was already there. If it was in the center, that would have been nice, but just drilled another hole which would be in the back. Can now plug the poly cap into there, and just won't use the Jim's side skirt at all. So just put that back there, and I'll just use this, and then that will be our new side skirt like that. And now actually that's looking a little bit too high, so I might actually take another stab at this and make that a little bit lower, but you guys get the idea. That's pretty much I'm gonna wrap up this video here. I'll fix that, wait for all this glue to cure on all this stuff, and then we'll get to cleaning it up, and we'll have kind of the major modifications for the torso and the waist skirt done in the next video, and we can start on some of the finer touches. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope it was worth the wait. See you in part 4 coming soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.